Right now, get scary good deals on select Ring cameras and doorbells. See who's there. Keep your scaredy cats company.
Oh, it's okay, sweetie. I'll be home soon.
And protect your crypt from the real monsters.
Oh, come on. The sign says take one.
Save big on select Ring devices right now at ring.com.
How did you learn of him?
I recently reached out to another cattery who I'll leave the name out for now.
Another cat owner or?
Cattery, sorry, my apologies.
Cattery.
A cattery is
I've never heard that word.
I don't mean either until recently.
And what does it mean?
It's basically like a breeder for cats. And
Okay.
where you would go to pick up a cat.
Do they call the other ones doggeries?
This is the plaintiff, Kevin King. He says he put down a deposit on what he thought was a male Bengal kitten from the defendant. And he comes to find out it was actually a female kitten. He didn't want a female kitten. The defendant refuses to return his deposit, and he's suing for the $630 he's owed. This is the defendant, John Bedard. He says the plaintiff picked out a male kitten from the litter his cat had. But unfortunately, that kitten died. The plaintiff got all hostile towards him. He referred him to another breeder in Ohio that he knows who could get him a male kitten. And all was well until he got sued. He's accused of being catty.
All parties, please raise your right hand.
What you are about to witness is real. The participants are not actors. They are actual litigants with a case pending in civil court. Both parties have agreed to drop their claims and have their cases settled here before Judge Marilyn Millian in our forum, the People's Court.
People's Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Marilyn Millian presiding. Litigants have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. King, you are suing Mr. Bedard for the refund of your deposit plus money that you are out as a result of him breaching a contract for sale of a kitten.
That is correct.
Tell me what happened.
So on Thursday, July 28th, I first reached out to John after
How did you learn of him?
I recently reached out to another cattery who I'll leave the name out for now.
Another cat owner or?
Cattery, sorry, my apologies.
Cattery.
A cattery is
I've never heard that word.
I don't mean either until recently.
And what does it mean?
It's basically like a breeder for cats. And this is where you would go to pick up a cat.
Do they call the other ones doggeries? I mean, I've
never heard it, but this
you
was
never
news to
know.
me as well.
But
yeah.
Go ahead and tell me, you are referred to him and?
That is correct, Your Honor. I texted him, at which point when I reached out to him, I asked if he had any male Bengals available, to which he said that he did.
I'm just curious, why did you specifically want a male?
I currently have a cat myself, and he doesn't do well with female cats. He only has ever done well with male cats, and so I just wanted to bring in some of the house that wouldn't be too hostile.
Gotcha.
And so I met with Mr. Bedard down at his cattery in Thompson, Connecticut, which was a 75-mile drive for me each way, so 150 miles round trip, where I met with the cat that I was prospectively going to buy, which he stated was a male kitten that I would be purchasing. Spent some time with the cat. I really liked it, and so I agreed to put a deposit down on the cat so he could reserve it for me. At this point, I left his house, and I sent the deposit on August 3rd, and it was confirmed on August 4th by my bank.
Okay.
I also got a text message from Mr. Bedard stating that he received the deposit and that he has it.
And then you're supposed to pick up the kitten when? If the deposit's on 8/3, when are you picking up the kitten?
We never settled on a specific date exactly that we would be picking up the cat.
But you expected it would be?
Roughly 6 weeks or so.
Okay. And so what happens?
So after I put down the deposit for John, I left, and then a few days later, John called me and stated that the kitten may actually be a female. So I waited to find out to see what the result of that was.
Can you not tell?
Oh, it's hard to tell when they're kittens.
Okay, go on.
So I did not want a female, so I reached out to him and said, hey, I can't do that. I'm not interested in the female. To which he said that he knows another breeder who had a male cat that I could potentially adopt instead. So he sent me some pictures of the updated cat, and again, I have all the
How much do these
here.
cats cost?
It's a $500 deposit for the kitten, and they can range anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000. The one that Mr. Bedard was selling was for $1,500.
Wow. When you buy a $1,500 cat, is it an indoor cat?
It kind of depends on how you like to treat your cats, I guess.
And what do you do?
I like to have mine like on a leash outside every now and then to take them out so
On
we
a
can
leash?
enjoy. Yeah,
I thought my daughter was the only person who did that. All right.
It's nice to make sure they can enjoy outside and things like that.
Yeah. No, Chrissy actually not walks her cat, but she does.
Just has it by her side.
Well, yeah, because she gets nervous that the cat's going to skedaddle. But yeah, all right. So he tells you it's actually not a male. Now that turns out not really to be true, right?
Yes, ma'am.
What was the truth?
The kitten had passed away.
And why wouldn't you just tell him that?
Because as a breeder, I just went through the kitten sitting there staring at water, not drinking. The kitten sitting there staring at food, not eating. Me as the breeder, it's my job. I had to syringe that kitten every 2 hours with a Pedialyte and try to get the electrolytes into the kitten's body because it had been like falling over, etc. So I did that for a solid 6 to 8 hours on and off. The kitten was good. And then I had left the house for an hour to go do something. When I came back, the kitten had declined to like what it was in the morning, which is basically seizure level and like twitch.
Okay, you've described how the kitten died, but my question was, why did you lie to him?
I wouldn't say I lied. I'd say
You told him that the cat he picked out was a female. That's not true. The cat that he picked out died.
Correct.
Yeah, that's a lie.
Okay.
How is that not a lie? How is it something other than a lie?
Because the way in the kitten world, you can have bisexuals, you can have transgender, you can have a lot of different things.
How do you have a trans cat?
Yeah, that stuff can happen.
The cat dresses?
No, what I'm explaining is it can be both sexes.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not lying to
you. You mean a hermaphrodite?
That's what I meant, I'm sorry.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So the most important time to check when the kitten on their sex is in probably the first week or two. Like, there's cats.
Dude, did the cat he pick out die? Yes or no?
Yes.
Did you tell him, my friend, the cat you picked out died? Yes or no?
No.
Right.
And
Did you tell him instead, my friend, the cat you picked out is a female, which is untrue because it was a male and it died?
Correct.
Okay, this is really black and white. There's no, this is not like gender bending anything. I know why you lied about that because that's not good for business. Now, he tells you, oh, it's actually a female. You say, I don't want a female, and then what happens?
So then he reaches out to me and mentions that he has a mentor, and he didn't tell me this, but apparently it was in Ohio, which I was unaware of. But he said he had a mentor who had another cat that was a male Bengal that was available to me.
Okay.
So he sent me some pictures, and I picked one out from the 2 that he sent to me.
Okay.
And said, okay, yeah, I'd be interested in that one. Again, not knowing that the cat was in a completely different part of the country.
Okay.
So fast forward a few days, I still haven't heard from John, haven't gotten any updates on the cat or anything like that. And so I said, hey, do you have any more pictures of this cat that I can look at? And I did not get a message from him. It said the message could not deliver. At which point I assume he blocked me for some reason. So I reached out to him on Messenger and didn't hear back from him until a day later.
And when he gets back to you, what does he tell you?
John stated that he felt overwhelmed from the whole process and that he would be returning my deposit.
Okay, let's look at that.
I have my phone here with me as well if you'd like to.
I feel overwhelmed, obviously, and you guys want more than I can offer currently, so I will just send deposit back. I can give you lady name extension for kitten. He says, okay, thank you. Then you say, she didn't write back. It makes me look, I'm not even going to use the word you use, and I am not a blank, so, and I am not living in middle, so stressful. No problem, man. Just let me know when you send the deposit. Then he sends you a cat, a picture of a cat, and I guess, is this the breeder in Ohio?
Correct.
And you say, thanks, man. She is unaware as of right now about what we talked. So if you talk to her, remind her about me, and she has a kitten for you. What that means is she expects me to get that for you, so he is... What is this? What is he saying? I can't...
I have just as hard of a time.
No, but you said sounds good, man, so you didn't have just as hard a time. I'm having a much harder time.
I understood the part where he said that if I wanted to reach out to her in case I did want the cat or change my mind.
We can look elsewhere. I think you're stressing about it more than you need. Things can't always work out. I'll let my roommate know. Thank you. Unrelated to business and just a personal note. I get you want to please others and run a good business and help people, but I think you put too much stress on yourself to get things accomplished that are just out of your control. It's okay to say no. And once I get deposit back, I'll still write a good review for your business practices regardless. Best of luck, man. Can I get that deposit now? It's not my money, so I don't want to tell my boy he isn't getting his cat or his money. So you will have your deposit before my phone gets turned on. Just reminded me, was it sent Zelle or PayPal and the name? I was supposed to get money yesterday, so still waiting on her. If I get today, slam right over. But again, I don't want to send the wrong person. It was sent over Zelle, and you show the Zelle. The reason I'm tight at the moment, one kitten passed out a litter like 6 weeks, so I stopped all sales until all tests came back. To be honest, what was wrong with the cats, with the litter?
That's where the problem is entailed, because like you said, I have a business to protect, and so Sir King over here explained to my mentor in Ohio that he was getting a cat from, he was no longer getting a cat from, and he called the mentor in Ohio. He asked her if she had a male available. She said no male available. He then said, what about the cat for John Bedard 007? She says, yes, I have a cat for John Bedard 007. He said, well, I'm declining that cat. I do not want that cat.
But what was wrong with the cats, though? 6 weeks, I stopped all sales until all tests came back, to be honest.
Coronavirus.
Coronavirus? The kittens?
Yes, ma'am. I have documents to prove it.
Why yours was going to come from Ohio, so I know it had already been tested. And you're right, I was trying to go above and beyond to keep you guys happy. I'm sorry I have 5 kittens and a mom at boarding and being tested. He answers, listen, man, I appreciate all that you're going through, but I've been working 18 hours. I'm off in 4 minutes, and I'd like to be off my phone for a bit. When are you going to send the money? And let's just hold, we'll both just go our own ways, no holding grudges. Just burnt out. I'll talk to you later. Be well, man. He keeps asking you for the money back like you said you do, and all of a sudden you're talking about the other cattery providing him with a cat, but he doesn't want the other cattery to provide him with a cat. He wants what you said. When did you buy? You ended up buying a cat from another place because this just got too hinky. And correct. When did you buy that other cat?
Maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I have the date in my phone somewhere.
Then you called him a snake. Why is he a snake?
Because if you read and then you comprehend of what's going on in that conversation, when you said about contacting the cattery, there's a girl that I sent him a link to, and she works at the emergency vet that all the documents are provided through, and she owed me money for selling kittens. So she was supposed to send me $600 to cover the $500 to go to Sir over here. And that's where everything came from, and the money got eaten into the emergency vet.
Okay, but those are your financial problems. They're not, you're either you breached a contract or you didn't. And the contract was that you would sell him the male kitten he picked out, which you can't do through no fault of your own because, well, I'm assuming no fault of your own, because the kitten died. So now it's impossible for you to keep the contract. All he wants is his $500 back. Why won't you give him his $500 back?
Because Sir made me kind of go crazy. Like, I'll give you an example.
Why do you keep calling him Sir?
Because I like to give everybody respect.
Oh, okay.
So this lady, customer, Jane, same thing just happened. Cell phone got shut off again. She reached out to me, and I submitted it into the paperwork, which is Jane reached out to me. Jane ended up with a bill at the vet of $1,280. Kitten passed away. And this is how the message went. Hi, John. Tried to text you, and I am really hoping you are not blocking me. That would make me very sad. Please get in touch with me when you can. I go, hello, I am here. You can call me. I believe text won't go through. I go, also, I haven't received the email yet for the bill, like I just told you about. And I go, that's not holding me up on anything. I am just keeping all my paperwork, etc. But this is my son's phone. If you would have to get straight a hold of me, just let me know. And she said yes, and I called her immediately.
What are you talking about? Who is this person, and what do they have to do with the case?
This is the same litter of kittens, and they're still dying.
Okay, I understand everything you're saying. What I don't understand is what's your defense. You are having a misfortune, which is your business misfortune. Stop. Okay. How does it mean that you don't have to pay this guy back his $500? If he gave you $500 in order to get a cat, and you can't give him the cat he wanted, then you have to give back the $500. And if you're acting hinky and sending these weird texts and he no longer wants to do business with you and he doesn't want a place you told him about, he just wants his $500, why wouldn't he be right that he gets his $500 back?
I'm not saying he can't get his $500 back.
Then why haven't you paid him?
Because I'm negative in my bank account $1,000.
Oh, okay. You seem to think that you having financial problems is a defense. It's not.
No, I think, what do you want me to do?
Verdict for the plaintiff, $500. I want you to stop selling animals.
Thank you.
So the plaintiff will indeed get his $500 back from the plaintiff. The defendant's on his way out of the courtroom. Mr. Bedard, what do you think of the judge's decision? You can't be surprised.
No, I was expecting it.
Is the only reason you haven't paid him back is because you don't have the money?
Yeah, I spent $8,000 at the vet trying to keep sick kittens alive.
Well, you should have been honest with him and told him you just don't have the money right now and I'll get it to you later.
I was honest.
Now you've got a court judgment against you.
I was honest, and he said that he'd give a positive review as long as he got the money back.
All right, thank you very much. The exit's on your left. All right, this has been quite a struggle for Mr. King, the plaintiff. Let's see what he has to say now. I'm sure he's relieved to a degree. Mr. King?
Yes, sir.
How are you feeling?
Not too surprised, to be honest. Went about how I thought it would go.
I mean, did he ever tell you the only reason he wasn't sending you the money is that he just plain didn't have it?
I got thousands of different reasons why he couldn't send it and why he will send it on this date and why he won't on this date. I needed to get this resolved.
What about your request for a kitten? Have you gotten one yet?
I've got one from a different breeder that I reached out to separately. I'm no longer interested in doing business with Mr. Bedard.
All righty. Well, listen, congratulations, and I hope you don't have to dealing with another cat guy like this in the future. All right. Better luck.
All right. Thank you, sir.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
So, Doug, there are two ways of looking at a contract when somebody breaches it. If it's a minor breach, usually you can't undo the contract. In the law, we call it rescinding it. You can only get damages, the difference between what you expected and what you got. Now, if it is a material breach, something that's really significant, then you could argue, well, I want to just undo this contract, get my money back, and move on. And that is precisely the case here, because it's fundamentally true that the difference between a male cat and a female cat, if that's what the person is asking for, is material.
Can I sue my neighbor for leaving their dog in their house all day? The dog barks literally all day long and it drives me crazy. What can I do?
Some people are more sensitive to barking dogs than others, and nobody's more sensitive than you to noises.
I'm just sensitive
like that.
to noises. I'm
yeah,
sensitive.
Anything. I guess step number one is to try to talk to your neighbor and see if you guys can just sort it out or come up with a solution. But it sounds like maybe that's not going to work because this person already sounds like they're at the end of the rope. So you could, if you have a homeowners association, that would be great because they stay on top of those kinds of things and they would pay them a visit and tell them, you can't allow this to continue and force them to solve it somehow. You could call the police. Not a very high priority on their list. A barking dog. Oh, handle code 3. Lights and siren. Not exactly.
But it could technically be a noise violation if this is going on and it's loud.
You could get to that as a nuisance or a noise violation.
You could file a civil suit.
Right. You could call animal control or animal welfare to do a wellness check of the animal and say, hey, you can't just leave this animal all day long barking. But
I'd also like to know, is the animal a puppy? Because a lot of times they outgrow that. And
that's true. Yeah,
it might be temporary hell.
And there's other variables too. Like some of these animals will, if they see movement in front of the house, I know my dog will. If she sees somebody moving in front of the house.
She can barely see.
Oh my God.
She sees you walking up and she's barking until you walk in and she can smell you.
Right. But she barks at stuff in front of the house. And when she was younger, she did it as well. So if you're in the sight line and you can put a little hedge or put something across where all the movement is seen by the dog.
Yeah, there's a lot of solutions if you
that might work as well. But that'll drive you crazy.
This is the plaintiff, Daryl Vickers. He says he hired the defendant to install a specific braking system in his vintage 1972 Chevy Monte Carlo. And the guy pulled a switcheroo on him and installed another cheaper brand. This guy out and out robbed him of the $4,000 he paid him. There's no way he's going to allow him to get away with it. And is suing here and now for the $4,000 he's owed. This is the defendant, James Matthews. He says the plaintiff couldn't afford the expensive braking system he wanted, so we told him about a cheaper alternative, and the guy agreed to have him install that one. He installed the brakes. The plaintiff came back once to have them adjusted and never complained about a thing. Now he's suing him for some strange reason he doesn't understand, and he thinks the judge will feel the same way today. He's accused of pulling a switcheroo.
All parties, please hit your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket. The plaintiff says that he bought a very specific high-performance braking system from the defendant, but the guy pulled a switcheroo and gave him an inferior product, so he wants a refund. Now, the defendant says the plaintiff couldn't afford the more expensive brakes, so he offered him a cheaper alternative, which he agreed to. It's the case of them's the brakes.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
All right, Mr. Vickers, you're suing Mr. Matthews and his service shop for $4,000 that you say he must return to you because he pulled a switcheroo on you. Tell me what happened.
Back in 2020, I'm thinking maybe September of 2020, I visited Mr. Matthews' shop in Rochester, New York, and he and I had a discussion about my 1972 Chevy Monte Carlo. I told him I had had the vehicle for quite some time and I was ready to start rehabbing the vehicle. I bought the vehicle back to Mr. Matthews on September 9th, 2020, and he proceeded to make some repairs to the car. Probably midway through his repairs of the vehicle, he and I started having a discussion about me updating my current brake system to a disc brake system. I suggested to him that I would like to have a particular brand system, and I told him I would like to have Wildwood.
Okay.
Mr. Matthews and I talked about having the rotors, which would have been disc brake rotors, drilled and slotted disc brakes. We talked about what particular colored calipers that I wanted for the disc brake system. I told him I wanted red, and he said, okay, well, give me a few days because his shop was really busy and he would get back to me with an estimate. And did he get back to you with an estimate? Yes, he did. He got back to me with an estimate on the date of 10/22, I think.
And does the estimate say the brand that you are specifying?
Yes, if you look at the second item of evidence that I provided to you, he provides me a order quote, Chevy front brake kit red for $871.84. He has right. Where's other than in someone's handwriting next to the words "Look, Judge," where it says Willwood. Who wrote that word, Willwood, upside down there? Mr. Matthews wrote that word. Okay. Mr. Matthews, is this your handwriting? Did you write that word?
It appears that it is my writing. It is what we're looking at, Your Honor, is not a quote. What this is a shopping cart that was formed on Jegg's High Performance mail order, and those are notes. This is not a quote. This is from Jegg's. Is that a different place? Yeah, Jegg's is our supplier where we buy parts. Okay. And if you take a look at every single part on here, those are not Willwood part numbers. No. Those are all the right kit, the right stuff. Right, but then why is it you write Willwood if you're going to argue to me that he never asked for Willwood? This is not a quote, a written quote. This is a quote from our supplier to us.
Right, but
okay?
you wrote, I know, but you have admitted that you wrote the word Willwood. That implies to me that you guys discussed the concept that it would be a certain brand. All right.
We did. Our initial conversation, the topic of manufacturer, Willwood was our what Mr. Vickers wanted. He wanted Willwood brakes.
Okay.
He had a budget of $4,000. He came to me and said that. So what we did is we looked at the cost of the Willwood product, and it was almost $4,000 for the product without labor.
Who's we? When you say we looked, who is
my
we?
son and I.
Okay.
My son Michael and I.
Okay.
He runs the company with me.
Okay.
And we looked at our cost on the products, and I went to Mr. Vicker. And I said, Mr. Vicker, $4,000 is not going to work. We either up the brake budget or Willwood is out of the question.
Okay.
That's why the quote that he showed you does not have Willwood part numbers on it. Those are the part numbers of the right stuff. That is the product that we did buy for this.
Okay, so why do you write the word Willwood?
Okay, so this is not a quote to him. This is my notes that I had conversations on the phone with him. So he wanted Willwood brakes. We're talking on the phone. I wrote it down, and then I did shopping, and it was out of the budget.
Okay.
So we went with a different.
All right. Is this the only quote he sees before the work is done?
This isn't a quote. Once again, that
okay.
is,
Where do you give him a quote before the work is done?
Yes. I have a deposit on December 8th, 2020. Okay. That is the receipt for the deposit. That's all. For
all right. So in here, it doesn't say Willwood, right, Mr.
Absolutely
Vickers?
Not. Right.
So
yeah, Mr. Vickers agreed to the other brand.
Mr. Vickers, in here it doesn't say Willwood, right?
No, Your Honor, it doesn't.
If it was so much a part of your deal, why wouldn't you see to it that it says that?
Well, because first off...
Because he's saying that you agreed to the other brand, and now you're just upset.
Mr. Matthews is not being truthful in what he just said to you, Your Honor.
Okay.
That's not how that went, and he knows that's not how it went.
Okay, so other than did to, did not, I have to look at the evidence to try to figure out who's telling me the truth as best that I can, because I wasn't present at your conversation. So when someone asks for a specific brand, it's usually on the invoice. He admits that you discussed Will, and he admits that's his handwriting. I didn't think he was going to admit that. He admits that's his handwriting. What he says is you two had a discussion and decided against it and that it would be a different brand. I don't see anywhere where he's selling you the brand you want and making you pay for that brand versus a different brand. I don't see that anywhere. What went wrong? Because you paid the guy and took the car. So when did you get upset and decide to sue? What happened? What changed?
Well, first, I never got upset with Mr. Matthews. And secondly, everything that Mr. Matthews said was not true. Me and Mr. Matthews never spoke one time on the phone about the arrangements. Every conversation that we had was in person in his shop. And there was never a budget of $4,000. Mr. Matthews and I negotiated the price of $4,000 because I had spent a significant amount of money with Mr. Matthews in his shop. Okay, so at that time, he initially suggested $4,800. And I said to him, I said, well, Jim, I can't do 48. I can do 4,000. He came back later on the next day and said, well, Fahim, we can do $4,000. There was never a budget. He and I agreed.
Right,
So
and what he says happened after the amount of $4,000 was agreed to. We can't do Willwood for that price. So
that is not true. How I discovered that it wasn't Wildwood is I came to pick the vehicle up. His shop closed at 4:30. I didn't get off of work until 5 o'clock. Jim and I spoke. Now, at this time, I don't know what brand brake system is on the car.
It sounds like from your testimony that you expected it to be, is it Wildwood or Willwood? What is it?
Wildwood.
Willwood.
I pronounce Wildwood.
All right, so it's tomato. All right, so you get there to pick up the car, and how do you find out it's not Willwood?
When I came to pick the vehicle up, his shop closed at 4:30. I didn't finish work until 5. Mr. Matthews and I had spoken that he was going to leave the vehicle in his parking lot. So when I get there to pick the vehicle up, I noticed right away because I don't see red calipers. I see black calipers. So I can't call him because his shop is closed. So I called him the very next morning and I said, hey, Jim, is that Wildwood on the vehicle? He says, no, it's not Wildwood. You couldn't afford Wildwood. I said, well, what do you mean I couldn't afford Wildwood? We negotiated $4,000. You agreed to it. He says, well, I didn't do the ordering. My son did the ordering, and I don't know what the system was. I said, well, Jim, you need to find out what the system is because that's not what I paid for. I paid you for Wildwood. Your Honor, the brake system is an inferior brake system. You can buy that brake system from the auto parts store for probably $400 or $500. It's not a Wildwood system.
Well,
Mr.
what does a
Matthews,
Wildwood system cost?
Well, the estimate that I have is the quote that he provided me.
The quote that he provided you doesn't say that you are ordering Wildwood. He agrees with you that the shopping cart, when you're talking, he does write on it, well, because the subject comes up, but what he says happened is that the two of you discussed it and that you would have to pay more than the $4,000. Because when was the $4,000 agreed to? Before or after the Wildwood discussion comes up?
Yes, ma'am.
Price first and discussion later? I mean, when does the amount of $4,000 get discussed? Because from your testimony, what you're saying is you discussed $4,000 first and then Wildwood later.
No. We did start discussing Willwood, and he quickly realized, and we quickly realized, that it wasn't in his budget of $4,000. He refused to up his budget, so I offered him an alternative.
Okay, so if he talks about Willwood from the beginning, why do you give him a budget that doesn't include Willwood?
He gave me the budget. I tried to
how do you come up with Okay, but the budget, but the budget has to come from somewhere. So when you say it'll be $4,800, are you using Willwood in your? Because that's what he asked for from the beginning.
I never gave him a number for Willwood. I quite simply told him it wasn't in the budget he allotted. He came to me and said, I have $4,000 to invest in my braking system.
So he just comes up with the budget for it without you giving him a quote?
Correct. He did that with all his work. He came to me with a budget proposal.
Did you ever go to him? Did you ever come to him and say it's $4,800, and then he says, well, what I have is $4,000 or anything like that?
No, because when I priced out on my shopping cart my quote for the Willwood product, my son, when he helped me price it out, the whole entire budget was $4,000 for parts alone for the Willwood cross-drilled and slotted with the red calipers. And so we were so far out of the ballpark, I gave him an alternative immediately, which he accepted.
This is a picture of what that we're looking at here that has just mule kicked him in his nuts, WT dope. That's
okay. So Your Honor, this is a screenshot of the work that we performed, the cross-drilled and slotted rotors with the black calipers. And
why black calipers? Didn't he ask for red?
Right, but okay, no, he agreed to black calipers, and that's on his receipt, which, okay,
oh, yeah,
if you
it says
read it,
black, yeah.
This is his actual receipt for the work we performed. And then the pictures, he was very happy. We have 11 pictures that we sent him on September, excuse me, I keep saying September, I apologize. This is every corner of the wheel with multiple views. March. Yeah, I know.
That doesn't, I mean, he doesn't know what the Willwood would look like. He doesn't, so this doesn't necessarily prove he knew you weren't using Willwood. As it turns out, Willwood has the word Willwood on it, right?
It sure does. Yeah. It's written right on the caliper.
Your Honor, can I say something?
Do you know,
please?
Mr. Vickers, how did you know about the Willwood brand, Mr. Vickers?
Well, in the muscle car world, Willwood is a very popular brand when it comes to disc brake systems.
Does Willwood always have the word Willwood on it?
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay, so when you get these texts from someone, is this from you, Mr. Matthews?
Yes, most likely, or one of my technicians,
okay,
but it
when
is
you
from our
see
company.
that, how come you don't say, whoa, what's going on? That's not the right disc brake?
First off, those pictures don't look familiar to me.
You didn't write the words, "Oh wow, you guys just mule kicked me in my nuts." Does that sound like you?
I don't recognize those pictures.
Are these your wheels? Is that your phone number?
That's not my phone number, no.
That is his number. It's got to be.
Well, when you say it's got to be, who tells you it is? Because you just submitted this into evidence quite recently. So
okay, yes.
Do you have that number written on any document that you can introduce to court?
Yeah, right here, my actual cell phone, the actual where he got it from, we got it from.
Call that number right now.
All right, I'll call that number right now. Have my son helping me, my assistant.
I've never met his son a day in my life, Your Honor.
The number you dialed is not a working number. Please check the number and dial
But
again.
it was a working number March 12th of 2021 because someone responded. So let's look
Your
at the
Honor,
work
that
order.
phone number is on his official receipt. It's his number. Look at the receipts I gave you.
Yes, sirree, I'm looking. All right. Mr. Vickers, I showed you this text and you're like, that was never my number. Then it turns out that that was your number and that was untruthful. People know what their phone number is. He has a document with the phone number, your phone number on it with your signature. So we know, you tell me that's not how I talk, but we know now that that cannot be true because that's your phone number and that was your answer to it. And it's clear that this isn't Willwood, Wildwood, because the name isn't splattered across the disc brake. So it sounds like it was just fine with you then. I am finding, Mr. Vickers, that you have not sustained your burden of proof to show me that, in fact, you have been deceived by them for many reasons. One is this picture. Two is that the paperwork you have never guarantees to you that it'll be the specific brand you're saying. Three is the fact that that brand would have eaten up the whole amount that we're talking about. I'm finding in favor of the defense in this case.
So the plaintiff fails to convince the judge he deserves to receive $4,000 from the defendant. Mr. Vickers, what do you think about what the judge just decided?
I'm kind of disappointed.
What's the matter with the brake system you have? Isn't it okay, or you just don't think it looks flashy enough?
Well, it's not a Wildwood. I mean, we agreed to Wildwood. I didn't get Wildwood. He gave me right stuff. But if the judge feels as though that I didn't have a case here, I can live with it.
Well, bottom line is the judge does not think you've proved your case, and you're going to live with it. You're going to have to live with it. You have no other choice, unfortunately. So you don't get $4,000. Let's see what Mr. Matthews has to say about that. Mr. Matthews, you feel vindicated now? You feel better?
Yes, I do, Your Honor, because the truth comes out in the end always. I know I called you Your Honor. I'm sorry. I'm a little nervous.
Yeah, that's it. You can call me Your Honor. That's all right with me. By the way, you said you've done a lot of work with this guy before. Is that right? A number of other things on this car?
We've done quite a bit of work for Mr. Vickers. He's had a lot of work done here, and he's always been incredibly pleased because our work is quite perfect.
So do you think you will continue to do work for him, or will this end your relationship with him? Any idea?
Unfortunately, this will certainly end because truth is the way it's got to be. Truth.
Okay. Well, listen, very good. You have prevailed, and you're off the hook. You don't have to give him any $4,000. Okay? Congratulations.
Another good example, when you go to an auto repair shop, really, or any place else, be as specific as you can. In writing, write down precisely what you expect, and you will be protected in court.
Sometimes wealthy pet owners leave large amounts of money for the care of their pets in their will. If a rich dog bites me, can I sue it?
That's a very interesting question because, yeah, there are some rich pets out there. You know, you read the stuff in the newspapers. I think it was Leona Helmsley left her Maltese, little Maltese named Trouble, like $2 million or $6 million or something, and then left just a pittance for a couple of the grandkids. The dog got way more than the grandkids. So people do that kind of thing every now and then. They'll leave millions for the pet in trust, and another $1 million for the caretaker of the pet for the next 30 years and things like that. But here's the problem. the law in all 50 states still considers pets personal property, right? They're property. You can't serve a subpoena on a dog. You can't get a lawyer for a dog. You can't get damages from a dog at a jury trial or in a bench trial from a judge. No one is going to award damages against an animal. But gosh, if they could, some people could get really rich if they get bitten by trouble, right? That little Maltese.